Hello and welcome to the second in our series based on 2 Samuel chapter 6, the importance of reverence, obedience and doing things God's way. I'm going to start off by making a statement, see if you agree with it. What you do behind closed doors is your business. It's not your neighbours, but at times they have plenty to say. It's not the government's, although they have tried over many decades, and what you do behind closed doors, well, it's your business. Not that of your church. So whatever you do is up to you. If you want to walk around naked, it's up to you. If you want to curse and swear, it's up to you. It's really what you're comfortable with. After all, it's your own home. Now, we love having people come and stay, and when they do, visitors see us at our best. So there's none of this mad naked dash from the bathroom to the bedroom. But it's true, when we have visitors, we try to make them feel at home. But at the same time, we act differently. Now, I could almost guarantee you feel ill at ease when someone comes to your home, especially when, say, for example, your pastor comes for a visit. And when you know all the kids are all on some type of warning or good behaviour bond. When people come, we tend to act differently. Now, not all houses are the same. Some are comfortable to act naturally around visitors, and they may go to some extra bother. So decide for yourself. Are you not bothered when someone comes, or are you the type who screams inside and rushes around to create a fakeness? Like I said at the outset, what goes on in your home is your business. But what would you do in private comes down to your own moral compass and your conscience. It would be great if what we preach in public is how we behave behind closed doors. Occasionally we'll receive unexpected guests. And a day I'm thinking about is a biblical example. You know, we've got examples of how some entertained angels, and while you're not expected to be as generous as Lot was with his daughters, hospitality is paramount along with just being yourself. In part one of the series, the importance of reverence and obedience and doing things God's way, I just want to recap what we discussed last time. In 2 Samuel chapter 6, King David wanted to transport the Ark of the Covenant, or the Ark of God, which held things like the Ten Commandments, Aaron's staff, and some manna. All these things were held sacred by the Israelites, and when we learnt the prescribed way how the Ark was to be transported, but wasn't, instead we read of how when the Ark of God was on an oxen-pulled cart, how the oxen pulling it stumbled, and Uzzah died trying to steady it. So let's pick it up after what happened after that. It says David became angry, and we could discuss his anger. It wasn't directed at God but at himself for allowing worldly ideas creep into heavenly ways which angered God. And so in verse 9 we read that David was afraid of the Lord. And he said, "How can the ark of the Lord ever come to me?" He wasn't willing to take the ark of the Lord to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed Edom, the Gittite. David had obviously lost confidence in himself and wanted to take some time to reflect on everything which had gone wrong. And Obed Edom's house, which was on the way to Jerusalem, was chosen to basically park the ark. So there it was, parked at Obed Edom's house. Not just at his house, but inside it. Remember, the ark was sacred to the Israelites. It was referred to as the seat of God. It was designed by God. In fact, it was really special, sacred, and where the ark was, God manifested himself. Now, Obed Edom was known as a man of God, but let me challenge you with this question. What would you do differently? And how would you live differently if God's presence was there? I mean, think about this, because the very sacred article which represents God himself, which touched Uzzah, died. Now, this is in your living room, right here. You're Obed Edom, you're Obed Edom's family. They've brought this thing into your living room, and it's like, holy smokes, you know, a guy died touching this thing. We better dance around it. Hey, careful kids, don't brush up against it. You don't, play on it. You don't run your cars on top of it. It's like we're going to be super careful. This is in our house, and the idea is it's like the presence of God. Again, we read in Psalm 99 that the Lord dwelt between the cherubim, and you have invited this very presence of God into your home. Well, nobody necessarily invited it, but you know, by default, the presence of God is coming to your home. Well, how do you live differently? How do you speak differently? What are some things now because you're hyper aware of the presence of God in your home? Translate this to, look, God is ever present. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. So in reality, He's in our homes. The Ark of the Covenant was just a tangible article to remind everyone of God's presence. But when you and I think about it, we should be asking this kind of question every single day. What goes on in my home? And how pleasing or displeasing is it to the Lord? What are we watching in the presence of the Lord? What are we listening to in the presence of God? How do we speak to one another in our home in the presence of the Lord? Because His presence is there. It's just we don't have this tangible reminder of it like Obed Edom did, that the ark. But think about it like this. Let this be a sobering question to every single one of us. It had to be a sobering day for Obed Edom and his family, but we should just be as concerned about the presence of God in our home and what does He see and what does He hear and how pleasing or not is it to the Lord. So what we do behind closed doors is of no business to others. But if God is present in your house, He must remain forefront in your minds as well. When guests leave our home, there's always a sense of peace. You can just relax, be yourselves, but while they're there, it might be an inconvenience. But you'll always take your towel to the bathroom. But think how enriched you'd feel for having those guests. In verse 11, we read where Obed Edom had the ark for 3 months. I've had a house guest stay for just as long. And this is the case where we read that the Lord blessed him and his entire family. In summary, whatever we do behind closed doors, just ask yourself, is it acceptable to God? And if it isn't, take on Paul's words when he spoke to the congregation in Corinth, 2 Corinthians 4:2, to renounce our secret and shameful ways and not use deception. Rather, we've renounced secret and shameful ways. We don't use deception, nor do we distort the word of God. On the contrary, by setting forth the truth plainly, we commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God. And in verse 11 of 2 Samuel chapter 6, we read that the ark of the Lord remained in the house of poor old Obed Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and the Lord blessed him and his entire household. Once again, King David had heard about this, and he was able to continue his journey to Jerusalem with the ark because he had learned the importance of reverence, obedience, and doing things God's way.